I quit. I'm going to quit. This could be the end of my whole business. I'm closing down my agency, or am I? How I use Claude when I'm doing this type of stuff. Number one, it's really good at analyzing code and just to figure out what's going on and what a problem is. So it'll analyze that. But then it can also help me fix it. So Claude can actually go into the files. It can create new files. It can actually use command line to do a wild array of things. And it can do all of this stuff for me, but I'm also in the code though. I can go into code and I can tweak that and I can remove that and I can build that out. But then I'm like, okay, but Claude can do it way faster. So Claude, do that. So I'm actually, when I code now, almost in every scenario, when I'm coding, I'm not just coding. I'm coding and prompting, coding and prompting, coding and prompting. But the reason why is because I was actually in Claude today working on this plugin and I couldn't rip myself away. Because there's, like, I'll solve one thing and it'll have it do it, a little feature or whatever. And I'm like, oh, then I got the next one in my head. And I'm like, oh, just a few more seconds. I'll just do this one real quick. And before you know it, another hour's gone by. But see, that tells me though, like, this is what I love to do. And it's kind of one of the weird lessons in this year so far is like defining what we do and what we love to do. There was things these last number of months with like, it was like this weird treadmill of fire hose of things that was coming in every day. And I'm like, it was pretty basic stuff and it was fine. We can do it. I'm like, what really excites me though is really actually building things, building a plugin, building features, building, whether that's in a plugin or on a client website, building something cool, Hi, I'm Matt Levenhagen, founder of Unified Web Design, Unified Plugins, and your host of the Builders Podcast. Here on The Builders, our goal is to uncover the first principles behind building businesses, products, and services. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. And if you find value in our content, a like, share, or review is always appreciated. Let's dive in and explore the roots of innovation and progress together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, it is a solo episode with just me, myself, and I. And we're going to talk about a couple different things, mostly about how I'm using Claude and AI. So we'll say AI, but I'm actually in this example, I'm using Claude AI, Anthropic's Claude, to, in my editor, and how I'm using it as kind of like a side cart. What do they call it? A side cart. It's basically a companion for me as I'm doing coding and stuff. I'm going to get into that today. It's actually the core of what I'm going to talk about. How I'm using it to build some plugins. Yeah, that's basically it. But I want to just start. I was actually, as I often do, I wait till the last minute to figure out what I'm going to talk about in a solo episode. In the last day or so, I've come up with a few ideas, and it's been an interesting year. So there's a lot of different angles I could take. Some more negative than others, some positive, and I decided to keep it positive. I was working on a title. Sometimes I'll start with the title of the episode. I was going to be like, I see people do this on YouTube. Like, I quit. I'm going to quit. This could be the end of my whole business. I'm closing down my agency, or am I? Something like that. That's the kind of few months I've had. It's been rough. In a couple of, in a number of different ways. If you'd have talked to me in January, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on a previous podcast, or you probably follow me more than I do. I would have said, oh my gosh, 2025, man. I mean, 2024 was not good, but 2025 is looking great. New contract, more business, and yeah. And then I had a couple different things going on. I had a new contract we were starting that looked very, very promising. It was an outgrowth of a relationship I'd already been building for a long time, and then there was one of our clients. They had a big initiative to update a number of sites that we help them manage. This is a long-term client, like 4.5 years, and their busy season is weird. It's kind of like in the first quarter of the year, and well, around tax time, so a little past that. But but they had this big initiative, right? And so I had to bring in extra developers to do that, plus this new contract come in. That contract turned into a huge thing where I had to bring in like 6 different developers on the fly, all at once. A lot going on, a lot happened, but and it was going good for a little bit, and then it wasn't. But through it all, we won't get into the nitty gritty of that. But through it all, 3 months later, we're sitting here, and that contract's ended, and that big project was behind us. Although we're still doing a lot for that client, so we still got stuff going on. But basically the team grew for a minute, like a dozen of us doing this stuff, and then down back to the basics. To our core. And sorry, my dog is like coughing outside my door. Anyway, so yeah, a lot, kind of ups and downs, right? And so I could, kind of, there's a lot there I could get negative about. And that's what I thought about. I'm like, this would actually be, it would turn it into an inspiring thing, like why I'm not quitting and believing in yourself, believing in what you've built. This is our 7th year as an agency. Took that, all these years to build this up to this thing. Events like this aren't going to crush us, or we're not going to go out of business. But it makes you think. I actually, those moments where it's like, do I really want to do this anymore? And then you go through the whole, you rewind like why you're doing it. And, you figure like, yeah, this is, even if I closed the agency, what would I do? Like, I wouldn't go to something different. I'd probably just become a freelancer again and do web development and, or work for a company or whatever. Like, I would still literally do what I'm doing now, just in a different form. So, like, well, that doesn't make sense. Just keep doing what you're doing, Matt. But so all those things come into play, though. You think about that, and I know I'm not going to get out of what I'm doing, like I said, as a craft, but it makes you think about your business when you have those big swings and the challenges that come from it. Again, there's a lot of lessons in these last 3 months. 3+ months, a lot of lessons that will probably come out either contextually or non-contextually over future episodes, or even when I guest somewhere, some conversation somewhere. Like, I remember this time. Anyway, so like I said, though, it really did make me think about what I'm doing. Those moments when you get out of a situation that was kind of negative, not even kind of, it was pretty negative. When you get out of that situation, you do assess, and you're either going to fall back on what you've always done, or you're going to pivot, or you're going to retool, or whatever you're going to do. And in this case, I'm really doing what I'm always like, tried and true. Right? Everything we've been doing the last number of years is tried and true at this point. Sure, there's areas we can ramp up, like outbound, right? Okay, now we're going to fire the outbound back up again, reach back out to people. And that's something I've been doing even this weekend. I'm recording this on the weekend. Even Saturday morning, I'm sending out messages. Hey, what's up? Touching base. I got a couple couple meetings set up with people that I know, just to touch base and see what's going on. And there's one individual that she owns an agency. And like a month or two ago, we touched base on Facebook, and I don't even remember she commented on some of mine, and she mentioned something about a group, like a group she belongs to that it's other agencies, and invited me, said she would have me join, and she would come back on a podcast. So can you figure it out who it is? Well, anyway, so that's what I'm doing. So that's like one example of what I'm doing. But I'm also looking at really ramping it up with my other clients and my existing clients that I've had for years. And, it's one of the things that happened was I did lose a contract. It's actually kind of ironic. Is that the word? Because I'm going to be talking about AI today. And one of the clients that I've had for quite a long time, 4.5 years, I've had a dedicated resource for this client, got the call that we've been replaced by AI. And it's a friend of mine, so they're going to tell me. So the conversation actually started with AI. It's like, and at some point, maybe 20 minutes in, he's like, okay, so let's talk about what I really called you for. And I laugh because what can you do? That's not we're not going to stop being friends. This actually, my client was my friend. But that it is what it is, but it literally was, they're using AI tools now in-house to do what we did for them for the last 4.5 years. Actually a little bit longer, because they've been pretty quiet for a while, and I kind of had this feeling something was up. But that happened as well. So that lost that contract, kind of lost another contract. A lot of things happened. Been a bad couple months. So I'm assessing, but we have other agencies that we still partner with, and things are coming in. Still, we're busy. It's kind of strange. We're just as busy now, at least in terms of the projects we're working on, as we were 2 months ago when we had like 10 times the work, just because the team grew we're elastic. We built the team up to manage all that. That's all happening. Now we had a smaller team managing less stuff, but it's still busy stuff, right? Anyway, so as I assess, though, it's like, okay, well, let's focus on retain. Let's continue to help and even do more for the clients we have. Reach out, help them get caught up on this, do that, whatever. And then increase the outreach, networking. I was on a networking call this last week. I belong to a networking group that's a bunch of tech people, and that's expanding and doing new things, and cool group of people. So I'm doing networking stuff. I'm doing all that. And then I look at our offerings. I think about, anything I need to change in my services? No, we're still going to be doing custom stuff. We're still doing the maintenance. We're still doing agency solutions. It's pretty much it in a nutshell. Although, we might expand what we're doing in those areas. Like we're WordPress, Shopify, but I have ideas around doing more AI related stuff on the services side as well. But the other thing that I do, or we do and have done for years, is sell products. So we have a website called Unified Plugins, and Unified Plugins has plugins for WordPress. And now I've been selling WordPress products for many years, more than a decade. I got into the product business I had products up to 20 years ago, but digital products of various kinds. But I didn't get into WordPress products specifically until about 10 years ago. So I've sold a lot of WordPress themes, and then I got into plugins in recent years. And so this is one of the things we do. So when this all happened, a lot happened in the last few weeks of last month, where we had kind of a little bit of a gap where our team was big and we had to let people go, and I had extra people, and I'm like, okay, we had this plugin we started last year, and I had a developer I looked and she spent like 300 hours working on this plugin. We never released it, planned on releasing it this year, but all this other stuff happened, right? Like, let's do that, get her back on that, and she can, revisit it, see where we're at. And because it was pretty close to being ready for launch. And then I had a refresh on her website. So sometimes when I have extra downtime for my team, or there's some kind of weird transition like this, and they are looking for things to do, I will do a refresh on my own websites. I have 4 websites. I had them updated. Some of them use Bootstrap, so updated Bootstrap, and did some QA on them, and just to fix bugs or whatever. And then we also, I decided. So one of the things with me, with my own sites, is I'm not big on animations, or I haven't been, right? And in fact, up until recently, most of my sites didn't have animations, or we'd introduce them here and there, and then they'd disappear. I just don't. I like it to be about the content, and but a lot of sites have animations, and like, well, let's use this time and see if we can introduce some micro interactions and some animations and stuff on all my sites. And I did that, and we did that. If you go to my sites now, you'll have a little bit more fun because things will be flying a little bit. I don't overdo it. Subtly, not every section, not every element is going to be moving around. I got some buttons where the arrow moves like this a little bit when you hover, little micro things, stuff like that. That's one thing we did as well. But also, like I said, this plugin that I'm going to talk about in a few here, it's called Unified Leads. We used to have unified email capture, but I don't know how long ago it was at this point, year and a half ago, actually phased that out, stopped selling it. And for reasons, because it's a whole story, but basically it had some limitations I didn't like, and I wanted to rebuild it at some point, and we did last year. And so we've taken a completely different approach to this plugin, and we're only focusing on one email service, which is MailChimp. For now, we can add more later. That's why I didn't call it Unified MailChimp, Unified Leads. So we can add, more later, whether that's GetResponse again, Aweber again, or others. But I want to focus just on, minimal viable. Let's do MailChimp. Let's just like rock and roll with MailChimp. It's going to be the best plugin in the world for MailChimp. And so we worked on the UX and the UI, the functionality, the API connection, all that, got all that working. So like I said, my developer spent hundreds of hours on this. And so this morning, actually, I think I might have done a little bit of checking it last few days. But this morning, for sure, I sat down and I was going to review this plugin in detail. Everything she'd done, she did some extra things. And when I work now on code, I have a helper. And that helper is called Claude AI. It's Anthropic's Claude. Claude is a weird thing right now because I actually hired a project manager a few months ago that still works for me. Her name's Claude. So that's her shortened name, but her name's Claude. So now I have multiple Claudes in my head. So every time in-house, when I refer to Claude, I have to say Claude AI. So we know what we're talking about. Not the person, the service, the AI service. So Claude is like ChatGPT. But I don't know if it's good. I think for a while it was better than ChatGPT for coding. ChatGPT, it's back and forth with these services. I don't keep track of that. But I do know that Claude integrates better with VS Code, or did. I don't know. Again, there could be another extension now I don't know about. I'm pretty focused. But Claude's been working great for me. And so when I pull down, we use something called Git. So we have this repository of code. And not to get too technical here, but basically, when my developer finishes doing stuff, they push it up into the cloud and I can pull it down on my end locally on my computer and work on that code. And I have an environment on my computer where I can test and I can do all this stuff without even being online. So I pull all that code down and I'm looking at it right now. I have my sidecar like AI sitting there, Claude, and one of the first things I do is I'm finding things. I kind of first review it, eyeball it, see where we're at. I saw some just with my eyeballs, saw some issues, and Claude helped me clean those things up. And some of it was formatting stuff. I have other formatting extensions and stuff. So some cleaning up that way, some other issues. And then I used it to review the plugin from a security perspective. So, nefarious people out there can't inject code into our database or website, or, just safely, because this particular one is form heavy. So a lot of things, you got other considerations there and stuff. So I went through that process, and that was, that took some time, but I worked through it. Basically what I did first is I had to do a full assessment of the project, and then choose the most critical things, the most important things, and made a game plan. And then I did make a mistake. And by the way, I'll get into that in a second. I did make a mistake. So sometimes, there's a little tip for you with AI. One of the things that you'll learn with AI is that if you give it too much to do at once, it has a lot of room to mess up. It has way more room. Not only that, it's harder to figure out what went wrong. So I had a list. I don't know, it was like 5 or 6 different types of things for it to look at. In fact, let me see here if I can pull up what I had it all do. So here's a security analysis of my plugin here. I got a document. So what I'll do is I'll do that, and I pull this out for my own for my own reference and what we're going to do. So some of the updates related to database operations, input validation, sanitation, authentication stuff, error handling, some things related to the external API for MailChimp, other operations, a variety of things, right? And and the way we do code with Git is I don't want to get into what Git is. It's basically though it's kind of a way to version your code and line by line see what changes over time, group changes together, and push those. And it's a whole way to manage code with teams and all this stuff. Well, there's a way to, like, as you're doing stuff, you test it and you push that code and test it and push that code. And I did too much. Like sometimes I get a little carried away, and I'm like, let's do all this stuff. So I had it make all these changes. I'm like, it's not that many, and it made all these changes one after another. And I just kept hitting enter, process. And got to the end. I'm like, awesome. All this is done. And then I went in the test, and none of my buttons worked. Nothing saved. Nothing did anything. So I ended up reverting and then taking one thing at a time. Okay, do this thing and then test. Do this thing and test. And I just broke it into smaller chunks. That's a little lesson for you. Don't do what I did. Of course, I have to learn that lesson, over and over again. Excuse the interruption, but I'd like to take a quick moment to thank the sponsors of the Builders Podcast, Unified Web Design and Unified Plugins. At Unified Web Design, we specialize in crafting custom websites and providing comprehensive design and development solutions to help businesses build a strong online presence. Unified Plugins offers a suite of WordPress tools designed to help you create beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive conversions. Explore how these services can elevate your digital projects by visiting unifiedwebdesign.com and unifiedplugins.com. Now back to our program. Because I like to just do everything all at once. But anyway, so I went through that. And then there was, because that was kind of an important thing for me. Like, I wanted to make sure that we had all this security stuff handled. When my developer develops it, it's kind of like they rough everything in. And then we, go through a bunch of iterations, and I'll review it, and then I'll have them add stuff. But then when I get it, then I might continue to do that, but I also may at some point just take it myself and work on it. Right. And I like to do that too, because I get familiar with the code. I get familiar with the database or the whole code base, and just start working with the features and testing and doing things. Right. And, but within that, I just start like I did today. I probably spent 4 or 5 hours today, at least, tweaking and working with Claude. Now, Claude it's how Copilot is, like, I think with like Microsoft or whatever. It's like on a sidebar. But in this case, because it's built into VS Code, which is my code editor, as an extension, and it's linked to, so I have to pay for the API. So it does cost me pennies at a time to do these operations. And then I have, unfortunately, when I run out of credits, it automatically bills me, which is good and bad. But at least I know, it lets me know. But I went through and just started working on, testing the UI and putting myself in the user's shoes. And I'm like, I need a little extra description here, and a link to how to create your key, your MailChimp key. I need, what happens when we assign one of the MailChimp accounts. So actually in MailChimp, you can have multiple audiences, right? Let me go there. Multiple audiences. And so I have it linked to my account, which has multiple audiences, just 2. But the thing is, once I saved it, there was a problem. There was no visual representation of that. Like, I didn't know what form was linked to what audience or anything. So I built that out. There's a table now that shows me exactly what's linked to what in multiple places, and then I can how to reset and remap all those fields. And I just started working through it. Need a button here, need to tweak this there. And all this time I'm using Claude. Now, how I use Claude when I'm doing this type of stuff, number one, it's really good at analyzing code and just to figure out what's going on and what a problem is. So it'll analyze that, but then it can also help me fix it. So Claude can actually go into the files. It can create new files. It can actually use command line to do a wild array of things. And it can do all of this stuff for me, but I'm also in the code though. I can go into code and I can tweak that and I can remove that and I can build that out. But then I'm like, okay, but Claude can do it way faster. So Claude, do that. So I'm actually, when I code now, almost in every scenario, when I'm coding, I'm not just coding. I'm coding and prompting, coding and prompting, coding and prompting. Um, Instead of myself having to go through a long, let's say I have thousands of lines of code, I don't have to go there to find something now. Claude can help me find that thing, and maybe it can help me fix that thing or add that feature. There was various features I added. There was just things that I fixed. There were, yeah, just a range of things, and I could do it pretty quickly, right? So this is where I think things are kind of transitioning right now. It's not that programming is going away. I mean, will it someday? Possibly, probably, but not. I don't see it in a very near future, right? Most of us right now are using it as kind of that co-pilot, that companion, that, sidecar, whatever, as an aid to help us do more, do it quicker, especially when, instead of having to use your eyeballs to crawl through thousands of lines of code, you can have it go in and do that. If you're working on a code base, like in this case, right, I had another developer do most of the coding for me initially. Well, now I can use, with Claude's help, I can help understand that code. I can, what is this file doing? What does this function do? How can we improve that function? Is this built? Is this well organized? Can you add some comments here? Claude likes to just add, update comments on its own. I see it doing it. I'm like, okay, I didn't ask it to change the comment, but okay, it does make more sense now. But that's how I'm coding now. And if I would like in the past, what I would essentially do is what I've been doing with my developer for most of this project. What I would do before is I would review it, I'd QA and then I would jot down, like, screenshot and make notes of what I want changed or updated or fixed. I'd send that back to the developer. They would do their thing and then push that code. I'd bring it back down and take a look at it again. And even little things, like when you're in that process, you're even tiny little changes. But now I can spend a half a day on a weekend making those tweaks myself, and probably saving a week, 2 weeks worth of back and forth and updates. And because, the thing is, even when you're working on something like this, some kind of software, code, there's layers to it, right? So I can say, okay, I want you to go do that, fix this. I'd rather take this approach. So build it this way. And then when you get it, now you see that. Now you see other things that can change, or that impacted something else. Or now we do this next, so there's layers to it. But when I'm working on it myself, I can go from one layer to the next all in one session instead of back and forth. So it goes pretty quick. And I think, I look at my team, I look at what I'm doing. A lot of the stuff that I'm doing is, I'm going to be able to do more and more with, like, Claude. ChatGPT, I have a strange thing going on with ChatGPT. I think I could be wrong. I have to do some research on this, but they added a function to the desktop app where I could have it look at my entire project in VS Code. But for some reason, it's not doing that now again. It's only able to look at one file at a time. I actually was able to, however, zip it up and put it in there, and it could unfurl it and look at the code, which is fine too, I guess. But I don't know why all of a sudden I asked ChatGPT why it couldn't do it, and it says something about security or something, but it's very strange. But Claude, however, can, because it's built into as an extension. I'm just wondering if there's not a ChatGPT extension by this point. Probably is. Anyway, but this is how I'm coding. It's interesting, as I like to kind of stay on the forefront of things, but I'm things that pique my interest the most are things that are going to make me more efficient and be able to do more with the same amount of time I have now, and something like this is great. The wonderful thing about something like Claude, not only can I have this, prompt in conversation with it, but it can also look into the code, but I can also screenshot. So I can see if I take a screenshot of the actual UI, the interface, and I can point to a button, it understands it conceptually or whatever, and it understands it. In fact, it can even kind of figure out what that is sometimes, like even by just a screenshot of, a button or tabs, it'll kind of figure out on its own where that is in the code. But I might give it an ID of, or something, like a button has an ID or class. And I can help it along a little bit. But I can have it do, like, I literally will treat it just like I would treat a team member, where if I want them to fix something, I screenshot it and I create an arrow that points to it. And then I just drop it into Claude. And boom, it understands it. And not only understands it, but it's got access to the code and can all figure it out. So, but it's not at a place, and maybe it'll get there someday, maybe it won't anytime soon. But it's not at a point where it's going to build the whole plugin for you, right? Just like the example I had earlier, where I had like 5 or 6 different things I wanted it to do on a security perspective. It didn't do a very good job when I gave it all of that. And not only that, it's harder. Like if you would have it just build out the whole thing, like in that case, like what went wrong? I don't know. I just had to do 5, 6 different things, and each thing had like 10 operations. So, but if you break it down into chunks, you can work on that one thing. And that's really important. And just like when you're creating like custom GPTs and things, the more narrow it is, the better it's going to do, right? And so it might be able to help you build kind of the framework, the idea, the concept around a plugin. Actually, my next plugin I'm going to try to do, we'll talk about in a few minutes, about the next plugin I'm going to try to do it all myself using AI. We'll see how that goes. But in this case, but I think it's at the same time, this is great. My developer got us to a certain point. I'm able to do this. There still might be, I might still bring my developer in, or I'm going to still work on stuff. But we have this companion now that can, cut to the chase and do a lot of things for us. So this is going to understand how MailChimp API works. It's going to understand how all of this stuff works. It understands WordPress standards. At one point today, it was working on things, and it said, it was reviewing some code. It's like, we're doing it this way because that's good WordPress standards, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, there's a little thing too. Sometimes you go down this little rabbit hole and it's trying to fix something and fix something and fix something. And I've had that a few times today where I keep on like, still doesn't work, still doesn't work, still, and I'll change some more things. Still doesn't work, still doesn't work, still doesn't work. Change some more things. And then it fixes it. But here's the thing. There's another tip for you. After it finally fixes everything, after about 6, 10 rounds, who knows, right? You went around and around and around. This whole time it's fixing things. That's not fixing the problem, but it's updating code. So at one point today, I said, it finally fixed it, right? And everything else seemed good, right? And I can see the code. Like I said, I've used Git, so I see all the changes visually. But I'm like, Claude, can you go now and all the files that you just updated? I would like you to go through those files and make sure we didn't introduce anything that we don't need or that conflicts with anything, And it did go back, and it found like an extra some form code that was like duplicate form code or something, and it got rid of that. So it did do some updates. That's really important. So if you ever find yourself down that rabbit hole, go back. if you're working on code, right? Probably other things too. You just sometimes you got to check it and be like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to add additional bloat here that we don't need. But it's a lot of fun. That's how I've been doing stuff, and kind of back to, you know, the original story of how, like, I'm at this point now. It's like all this bad stuff happened these last few months, and I come out of it and I'm like, okay, that happened, but I got all these other happy clients, all these other great things we're doing. We've been doing this for years. We know what we're doing. That was just a blip. It just happened. It was a weird circumstance. Losing that contract to AI. Okay. That actually makes a great story. It really sucks, but you know, it is what it is. But I came out and like, you know what? Don't hesitate. Get back to, you know, like I said, the tried and true methods. You know, I know, right? A little bit outbound, a little bit of networking, reaching out again, and then focusing on the clients that we have, doing even better for them, and actually just assessing the positive things that come out of something. Like, one of the positive things is Claude, not the AI. My project manager. We just went through a lot together these last bunch of months. A lot. We did a lot. We had, like, you know, like I said, we added all these developers. We had, like, in 1 month, we got like 6 large projects and then a bajillion other things, right? And she managed, I hired her during this time. I hired her about, I don't know, 3 months ago or something. And I went out, I'm like, I want a project manager that has experience. I need that right now because this is madness. And she came in with lots of experience and just went right in and took charge, and amazing. And even out of all that, like, I'm like, I'm keeping her. I'm like keeping her as long as I can. And so we, you know, that's a positive thing that came out of that. And she's helping out with other clients and, you know, and keeping us organized. But beyond that, it's like looking at, okay, our services are still solid. We're still doing great things. We still have great value in what we do. We still have great relationships. We still have all that, and we still have products, and we still want to build that side of our business. And maybe, you know, a little side benefit here is that, yeah, through everything we just went through, it's good to have diversified income. So we want to build that product side of our business. Not only does it showcase our work and that we know what we're doing as web developers and WordPress, but it also hopefully will become a good income someday that offsets or helps support us in other ways. So maybe that becomes the main business someday. You know, who knows how the next number of years will shake out, but it's a beautiful thing. And so getting back into the code, like, that's the other thing, you know, like these last 3 months, I actually, as the owner and founder of an agency, there's this ebb and flow in terms of what hats I'm wearing. And for that 3 months, I was 100% a project manager and, you know, the manager, the lead, the one running everything. And I was not in the code. I was in the code for a minute early on, when I had a bunch of things going on, but I had to mostly just try to manage this thing. That got a little out of control. But now, when we come out of that storm, I'm back in the code. Maybe it's a weekend, but I'm back in the code, and I'm back, you know, got that hat on, and we're going to just keep moving forward. We're going to, you know, I made up in my mind, you know, several weeks ago, like, we're going to get this launched. Let's get this plugin done. Let's get it in good shape. Let's get it tested. Let's get it launched on the site. Let's refresh our sites. If you actually look at unifiedplugins.com, that's a brand new layout too, brand new design. We actually redid the design. and full transparency. okay, is not something we designed. I literally came up with a design, and this is important. This is another lesson, okay? Sometimes doing something new and fresh does not require weeks or months or a year to plan and design and develop, and you don't need that. Within a week or two, I found a design. It was a Figma design somewhere on the web. I found a design. Didn't matter if it was WordPress theme. It didn't matter what it was, right? I found a design. And I really liked it because it was clean. I liked the typography. You know, I'm like, this is, because I was never 100% happy with the design of Unified Plugins initially. I had based that on another website, and I never was totally happy with it. So I'm like, no, let's do this. I had a developer that had some extra time. Let's throw them on this. So I literally gave him a Figma file. I said, you know what? Take this Figma file. I didn't even design. I didn't even update. It was like it was just a Figma template. So you see the look and feel of this, translate that onto our website. Take and so you went page by page, blog, the affiliate page, this page and that page, the home page by page, and he translated that look and feel on each page. Didn't change the content, didn't change the layouts and the order of things. That wasn't the goal. The goal was simply to translate this like a new fresh coat of paint. And he did that. But we did it in like I said, I think I sat down. It might have taken me an hour to find that design and then write up the task and give it to my developer. And then every day I checked in with him. Where are we at? Looked at it. Great. Looks good. On to the next. And he was even doing other things in between for like clients. And then it was just kind of done. I got it launched myself. I'm like, looks good. And I don't know, I had some extra time and I went in and I pushed that to production. A couple tweaks after that, QA'd it, good to go. There you go. So I got that done really quick. This kind of the same thing. Okay, we're really hyper focused. We're going to get this in a good place. And we're kind of looking at minimal viable stuff here, right? Get it in a good place to where I can set that up. Get everything set up with Freemius, which is how we sell it. And then I'll create the copy for the website, take lots of screenshots and in the how-tos and showing how it works and set up the documentation, boom, boom, boom. That'll hopefully happen within the next week. And we got our next plugin. And that takes us to what we're doing after that. So after all of this, this is going to be, I really want to continue to promote these products. I have some ideas around marketing and getting the word out. There's so much. We've built so much. All the plugins we have, we built on, worked on off and on over the last number of years. And I know we're not in making the sales that we could be making because we're so focused on the agency side of things and services. But I really want to ramp this side up. But I think we're in a really good place with what our offer is. But I also want to build some more plugins. Just keep building plugins. Eventually, to a point where no one can ignore us, because we're going to have so many plugins, so many awesome plugins. See, I actually have a strategy behind the ones that were already built. So if you go to Unified Plugins, you're going to find one called Unified Access. I wanted a plugin that we can control access, because that's something we run into quite frequently, right? And it's a pretty cool plugin. It actually does have PayPal integrated in it. Works really well. It also integrates with WooCommerce. So if you need more features, there's some kind of interesting WooCommerce stuff. So I got that I wanted something with access. I wanted something also for kind of a toolkit. Basically, it's actually called Unified Toolkit, but it has a lot of little, just some admin things and just little things that I use all the time. And I want to just kind of, it's like a minimalist admin menu thing you can do. There's duplicate post functionality. There's a little SEOs. Sometimes you don't want to, you launch a site, you want to do it quickly. I like to do things quickly. I don't want to have to install Yoast and or install all this stuff right off the bat. Sometimes you don't need all that right off the bat. When you're ready for Yoast, great. But Yoast is an SEO plugin. But right now you can actually do some basics with this plugin. So then unified pop-ups solve some problems for us. Unified blocks is a number of things. There's carousels, galleries. There's just a variety of different blocks, some CTA blocks. Good to go. And that's what we've had. Now we're going to have unified leads. So now my whole idea here is to build a suite of plugins along with Agency Forge, which is a block theme. When you install it, it's there. It's ready to go. You just update it to build, a website just like that. With have all the main things like thinking about like a small site that just needs the basics. They need a contact form. They need just minor stuff like some blocks and, maybe they have an access thing. Maybe they need a pop-up, some of the basics that right out of the box that you have right there. And then unified leads is the last piece of that, because what does most websites have? In this case, you can actually just create a contact page, or you can hook. So technically, I said a MailChimp plugin, but I also built it so that if you don't have MailChimp, it's just going to send through WordPress mail function. So it just works like a normal contact form. So now I don't need to install custom forms plugin, or some advanced plugin just to get a basic. Which again, many sites you just need a basic contact form. They don't even have it thought out beyond that. If you need something more advanced, install that as well. But yeah, so I'm building all this stuff out, but there is one more thing that I want to do. So technically, I was thinking about building this into Unified Toolkit, but I think I'm going to spin it off into its own little plugin, and it's going to start very, very basic because I have no idea what I'm doing. But I want to create, because everyone else is doing AI stuff, right? I want to do something AI based. And I want to have something called Unified AI, maybe Unified AI Companion, something like that is going to provide some AI-based features. My ultimate vision will be to have that, even if it's just a prompt, like in the dashboard of the admin. That's the first step, right? I got an AI plugin. But I have lots of ideas beyond that. It could turn into a chat bot. It could do all kinds of things. But it can also integrate with other plugins. And that's what I hope with this suite of plugins, that they all kind of work together. There is already some of that happening. Like with Unified Toolkit, it has a dashboard that recognizes the other unified plugins installed. And it'll tell you if it's installed or not. So there is that thought where eventually they'll become more and more integrated together, and different features will play together, just like kind of the pop-up in unified leads. I built those in a way that you would easily be able to add a form to the pop-ups. So all that stuff's I'm thinking about each one individually, but also as a whole, to build websites. And that's my vision, and that's exciting to me. So all this stuff happened. But I'm excited this week. It was actually really, really hard, and reason why I'm doing this really late on a Sunday. This will release tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on Monday when it releases, I literally might have recorded the day before. But the reason why is because I was actually in Claude today working on this plugin, and I couldn't rip myself away. Because there's, I'll solve one thing and it'll have it do it, little feature or whatever. And I'm like, oh, then I got the next one in my head. And I'm like, just a few more seconds. I'll just do this one real quick. And before you know it, another hour's gone by. But see, that tells me though, like this is what I love to do. And it's kind of one of the weird lessons in this year so far is like defining what we do and what we love to do. There was things these last number of months with like, it was like this weird treadmill of fire hose of things that was coming in every day. And I'm like, it was pretty basic stuff and it was fine. We can do it. I'm like, what really excites me though is really actually building things, building a plugin, building features, building, whether that's in a plugin or on a client website, building something cool, it's not always cool. Sometimes it's just, adding a button to a site or whatever, but it's still building something. It's adding something. It's, improving conversions or it has some kind of impact. That's what I love to do. I don't, there's things that you can do that it's like every day is the same. Same problems, same things over and over and over. And that's okay. That's okay. There's room for that. But what Matt really loves is this, man. I tell you what, if I could just do, if I could get this product site, unifiedplugins.com, rocking and rolling, get it out there and start selling these plugins. Man, I would love to just do that. I still have the agency, but I would love to. Right now, it's like I like to flip it. I like the like the product side of the business to be bigger than the others. But I think, but the AI assistant. So yeah, I have ideas around that where I want to integrate AI into what we're doing. There's already some plugins out there that have some AI features and things. And there's a lot of stuff you can do around that, even just around generating content, things like that. And I want to do that. I think we have a good suite of plugins. And if I could build something like that now and start integrating that into stuff, it could really increase the value of what we're doing. Maybe even generating images and stuff on the fly. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. A lot of good ideas. Anyway, I hope you thought this, hope you found this interesting. Hey, if you're going through it right now or, you're not in a good place and, things are challenging you. Maybe you had a bad contract. Maybe you just had, you're not getting the business you think, just, you have to, you can't always blame yourself. You can't always, if you've worked hard. And I think if nothing was working, then that might be a thing. Like, my situation is a little different. Like, and so if you would have to relate to this right now, again, like this short-term bad thing happened, right? And we lost a couple contracts and it's just tens of thousands of dollars a year, maybe more. But hey, but through it all, right? If you have other things going, you got clients that are happy and you're doing work with that are sticking with you and you're growing with, or other partners where things are doing amazing. And if people love your content and you have a podcast that's doing well and you have, focus on, that thing happened, but look at all the good things that are happening. Maybe it doesn't require you to change or pivot. Maybe it just requires you to double down on and focus on who loves you, double down on what you're good at and jump into a fun project like I'm doing right now and talk about it on a podcast. Anyway, until next time, I appreciate you listening and hopefully you got something out of this one. I'll see you around. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And Unified Plugins offers tools to take your WordPress projects to the next level, helping you build beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive more conversions. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with somebody who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building with intention and creativity.